everyone, welcome to this BAFTA One-to-One with myself, Taj Atwal.
And me, Priya Kansara. Let's get started.
Priya, you studied molecular biology at university. How did you get to performing from there?
I'd like to preface this by saying I don't remember very much of my degree, so it feels almost slightly wasted at this point. But I always wanted to do acting. So like if you had asked me when I was like 4, I would have said I want to be an actress. But I think I didn't kind of see myself in this industry, and then also nobody around me did anything remotely creative, right, growing up. So I was kind of academically inclined and then went down the route of doing molecular biology at university, and then I worked in the pharmaceutical and the healthcare industry for 3 years as well. But whilst I was doing that, I spent majority of my time and effort doing every show possible, like getting involved in all the clubs that I could, or doing amateur showcases and performances, like doing theatre groups. I did a lot of dance, all sorts of performance.
How did you find the time?
I didn't study.
Oh no.
It's just kind of like coasting my way through all of that stuff.
Priya's mum and dad are watching, turn off now.
And then when I left university, I decided to do evening school. So I studied at a place called Identity School of Acting, which is like an evening. Yeah, so they do like evening classes, and I did that for like 3 years whilst I was working. So that I felt like I had like at least a good base or foundation in training. And then yeah, that's that really.
Got signed and now you're a movie star.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Amazing. Who else can say that? It's great.
And what about you? Because you studied acting. And was there anything else you wanted to do, or like thought you would do, or was that the goal the whole time?
I cringe at myself now when I think about some of the things that I thought I was going to be. It wasn't an immediate choice to become an actress, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I think I was just quite wild and had a lot of energy, and I didn't have an outlet. And so acting felt like a natural way for me to kind of channel all that energy. And I did study acting at York College and then at drama school, but that whole time, especially at college, I thought I was going to be a rip speed specialist, modifying cars. At one point I thought I was going to be a hairdresser.
This is so rogue.
Oh, it's so random. Honestly, I cringe. And at one point I thought I was going to be a boxer. Did about 5 lessons, hated it. And then I thought I was going to be like a boxer who did acting on the side. Yeah, just really, really random. And then I went to York College. And even then, I just didn't think I was going to be an actress because I didn't know how.
Yeah.
You know, when you just like, but how do you do that?
Yeah. No.
And then I had really great tutors, and they kind of encouraged me to go to drama school. And I was really scared and so out of my depth. It was just so different to some of the people in my class. And then I would say kind of around the 3rd year of drama school, I was like, okay, I actually think I can do this.
That's so cool.
I think it's the text, obviously, as well as the work. Harold Pinter, especially, that was like a revelation to me, his work. And I got to play Lulu in the birthday party in my 3rd year, and I think that was when I really realised, I can be an actress. There's actually roles out there for me to play in theatre.
Makes such a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good writing, good roles.
I played a lot of maids and nurses up until then at drama school, and I was like, oh, there is actually named parts I can be.
Yeah, it feels like a purpose, right, to be a storyteller. But then when you don't feel like there is a story in the parts when you're doing like Nurse 1.
It was just roles that I actually thought were interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
And that I could maybe not see myself in completely, but, you know, with Lulu in the birthday party, it was just lending itself to what I thought my skill set was at the time.
Do you feel like there's been, I don't know, like you've had a change in the kind of things that have come your way, like the diversity of the roles that are offered or out there for you, like since you first started?
I think so. I think I never put pressure on myself. I don't know about you, but I just was like, well, I'm going to give myself a few years to get one role. And, you know, then I know I'll be doing well. I've got like something in the next few years. And I happened to have thought of go straight into comedy. I found it easier, and Ruth Jones at the time had written a character that I just knew in my head when I read it, was like, no one else is going to play this part. And so I did a lot of comedy, and then I made the choice to kind of start preparing myself for other roles and saying no to stuff.
Yeah.
To be able to say yes to stuff, which is really scary because you do spend a lot of time not working.
Yeah.
But what about you? I mean, you started so strong in such a phenomenal movie.
Oh, thank you. I mean, yeah, I feel very lucky with the way in which things happen for me. I mean, I quit my job. I decided to be a full-time actor.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means sometimes still.
Yeah.
But I decided to do that 3 years ago. So
That's
lucky.
only 3 years. Wow, you did so well.
Thanks, man. I mean, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Fake it till you make it.
Well,
It
you
feels
do.
like.
Obviously, there's something internally that's guiding you.
But I feel really lucky. Like, I remember getting my first job that year. I had left my job, and I remember I had been auditioning for ages, but the first audition I had done after I left my job was for this, like, really small role, but it was in Bridgerton, and I got the part.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, firstly, thank God. Because I didn't quit my job for nothing. Imagine, at least I'm going to get some money. And I can pay the bills. But at the point that I'd got that, I was like, oh, great. So if I don't get another job that year, it's okay. That's normal.
Yeah.
But I was so unbelievably lucky, and it was the right time and the right place for me,
and
I guess.
good and talented.
Thank
and
you.
You've worked for it.
I mean, we say that, and I'm a huge believer in working hard. I think I kind of see it as like, you have to work hard. That's a necessity. If you don't work hard, then you're never ever going to make it. But even when you work hard, there are like 99 reasons why you may or may not get the role that are not in your control.
Yeah.
Right? And the 1% that is in our control is the working hard and perhaps your ability to network or get the right people on board with you. And most of us are doing that 1%. So we really have to be at the right time, the right place, where it all to kind of fit together to find those teams of people to get that role that comes across that feels right for you. And I felt so lucky when all of that happened at the same time. And so I just wanted to make a living off doing the thing I love. I didn't care. I didn't want anything else. I just want to tell cool stories and meet interesting people and get to play interesting people. And I think I fell up the stairs as
That's a lovely saying. I'm going to start using that. You fell up the stairs.
I mean, it's not my saying. I think Tim Bevan said this, and it really stuck, actually. Yeah, I fell up the stairs. I was very lucky. So yeah.
Is there any kind of film or TV programs that really resonated with you while you kind of growing up, or now, or that's the kind of career I want to have, or?
Oh my gosh, I was inspired by so much growing up as well. Like, I think I loved a bit of everything, and I love the escapism, like, of going into different worlds.
Yeah.
And like because of my mum, I grew up on a very healthy diet of Bollywood. And
Bollywood?
Yeah. My dad loved action films, and like me and my brother grew up watching lots of animation. We still love watching that kind of stuff. And then I even remember seeing things that like really transformed the way I saw brown women on screen and being like, oh my God, we can exist in like Western film and television. Like, I remember watching like the Mindy Project when I was like 15.
Right, okay.
And it was a really big deal.
Yeah.
To like see a brown woman like lead a show. That too, for that long and of that quality and great writing, but also her character was just so just herself and wasn't limited by the things that we had seen previously as what a brown woman should be. And she was like empowered sexually and like all of these things, really like Rana, like in Hullraisers. And I think that that's really empowering to see things like that and then feel like, oh, maybe there are spaces.
There wasn't any of those kind of shows for me growing up, and I watched everything, obviously, a lot of cartoons and a lot of what my dad watched, which was things like Last of the Summer Wine, One Foot in the Grave, all the Carry On films. So, you know, I did not see me on screen at all in those shows. So there wasn't really a benchmark for it. And I never resonated with Bollywood.
Yeah.
I loved, you know, I'd always want to kind of do a little dance and stuff like that, but I never resonated with it for some reason.
So
and just felt like such a far away world from anything that I knew. And then it was Gimme, Gimme, Gimme with Kathy Burke.
Okay, nice.
That was my favourite comedy growing up, and everything she's ever played. She's an absolute hero of mine, and she was the one that inspired me.
No way, that's so cool.
And somebody asked me once if I was joking, and I was like, no, I wouldn't be joking. I think she's such a versatile actress, from Perry and Kevin and Perry to Linda LaHughes and Gimme, Gimme, Gimme to Valerie in Nil by Mouth, which she was actually nominated for a BAFTA for leading actress. Just such a raw, powerful performance. I don't know if you've ever had got to watch it, but her range for me is insane.
Yeah.
I always used to think, oh, if I could have a career like hers, I think I'll have made it.
That's so cool. And here you are, 2-time BAFTA nominated. It's so cool. How does that feel? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I forget, and then someone says it.
You're like, oh my God, yeah, that thing happened.
I genuinely forget, and then my friends and family love to tell every new person that we meet everywhere we go. We're just having a normal conversation. I can feel them just wanting to say it. They're like my little PR team.
I know, who needs publicists when you've got a family?
I know. Which is really, really sweet, but you still have to go back to the grind.
Yeah,
Still have to
exactly.
audition, you still put the work in. So you celebrate it in the moment, and it's so, so lovely.
Yeah.
And it is a nice talking point in the room, but I just go back to then just focusing on the work.
Yeah, no, but it is so like inspiring and wicked to see. You do that, and it's really cool.
Okay, what does South Asian Heritage Month mean to you?
Oh,
It's a big question.
It is a
it's
big
a really
question.
big question, yeah.
I feel like I celebrate and take pride in my heritage, and I try to do this every day. And it's cool that we feel like we have a platform to kind of be louder about it and share it with everyone else at this point in the year, and that's really nice. I feel very lucky to have grown up with the influences that I did, and I feel very connected to my culture. You know, I grew up in a South Asian, in an Indian household, in a Gujarati household in North London, but I grew up speaking Gujarati in my household. I grew up watching a TV and film that was also reflective of our culture so much. And I think, interestingly, those were the things that I connected to, even if I felt so distant from Bollywood. Like, it felt like a different universe. It was just an escape. It wasn't something I could connect to, but there were still elements of it that felt a bit homier to me. And I feel very thankful to represent who I am in my work. We're so diverse even within our shared culture.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that we get to talk about it and we get to share it with everyone.
Yeah, I think that's what Polite Society captured so beautifully. You know, there was no tropes and no cliches or stereotypes. Everything was dealt with so delicately and so believable and authentic, right from the performances to the writing to the way that it was shot. Even the soundtrack was the first thing that captivated me. I was like, oh my God, I love this soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's so badass. I mean, did you have any creative input in kind of creating your character?
No, it's really funny. A lot of people are like, did you help write Rhea? And I was like, no, but it really did feel like one of those projects that was like so beautifully like timed, and it felt very
made for you.
serendipitous.
It really felt like that.
It felt like that in a way as well. I feel very connected to Rhea. And Nidha is an incredible writer. I just feel so lucky to have worked with her, and she created Rhea so beautifully on the page. I felt like I could lift her up and I could see her, but in the same way she gave me so much space to just bring my own and allow me to be myself in her as well. And it was like a really beautiful kind of fusion.
Yeah. Nidha was actually described you as the next Tom Cruise. How do you approach your stunt work?
I hadn't done any fighting or any stuff. Like, I think I'd been taught how to use a gun once in a TV show that I had done before it, but other than that, I have never done any stunt
Never fought
work.
at school.
I
just loved how angelically you said it. I was like, you know, I never fought before.
I never fought
And
at all.
like-
I mean, my brother would definitely say differently. I'm sure at one point, like, thrown a chair at him or something, you know. But I was cast about probably 6-7 weeks before we started shooting, and we just dove straight into it.
Tight turnaround.
Yeah. And I was like, and we just train every day, every other day. And
Right,
just kind of
okay.
get in. I didn't have the option to learn martial arts from base foundation and kind of learn it, you know, how a stunt person would.
Yeah.
I kind of had to dive into it and learn form through the choreography, which was the easiest way to get through the work and ensure that we had it all down, but then I could perfect it in between, if that makes sense, rather than learning how to do fighting and stunts as a whole all together.
And it really felt for your back, because the amount of times you had to do that kick that you failed at the beginning of the movie, I was like, I really felt for you.
It was like a really physically involved show.
Yeah.
It was amazing. How has it been for you? Have you felt like a lot of your roles have been quite physical? I mean, even all the police roles and things like that, it must be still really intense,
They
right?
have been, actually. Even with the comedy roles, though, some of the characters are so far removed from who I am. And so I've been really lucky to kind of step into shoes that are so different. All the police stuff, I played an FBI agent where there's loads of stunt training. I thought I was, you know, really fast and really good at it. And the director at the time, Martin Campbell, was just like, you're too slow.
Yeah.
You need to just run faster. So I was on that treadmill every night on rap, trying to get faster at running. I think the most fun I've had is with the cars. when I've got to race the cars.
Nice.
Yeah, in memory I got to have a little bit of training with this American Dodge Charger, and I loved it.
That is so cool.
It was really cool, and I actually got to properly race it on the set.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think the other actor who was in the car with me thought it was amazing, because it was quite scary.
Yeah.
I just heard over the cans like, yeah, okay, Taj, on action, I want you to be bumper to bumper with the car in front. And then everyone was like, can she do that? And he was like, yeah, she's fine, she can do that. But I had training.
Yeah. How long did you train for that? Because that's such a specific skill. Like, that must take quite a long time,
I mean,
right?
at first it was just driving around this film studio in Bulgaria. And then on the day, it was way more intense than I ever thought it was going to be, because there's live cars. The set was built like Dallas. So there's other cars, you know, driving on the other side of the road, so to speak. And the mark on where I had to finish the wheel was like that big.
Oh my gosh.
I know, but I did it. When I heard all the men going, can she really do that? I was just like, just you wait.
Watch, yeah.
So I kind of, wanted to prove myself even more. But I'd like to do more of that kind of stuff. But
yeah, maybe we should do an action film together.
there you go. Racing cars.
Yes.
You beating everyone up.
And then you can join.
Great. I'll run them over and you can punch them in the head. We're not violent.
Yeah.
If you weren't acting, what profession would you have gone into?
I think I'd probably still be working in healthcare, to be
Would you
honest.
be
Yeah.
a molecular biologist?
So I love science, but I don't think I was as academically inclined once I got to university. And I think I realized that my skill set lied more in like the more business aspect of science, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I really wanted to like go into working for like NGOs and science research
Wow.
in different fields, and that would have been really interesting for me, but I still have an interest in it, but it's not comparable, I guess, to my love for
You need to have a
acting,
look
so,
at
yeah.
what kind of South Asian women, you know, in the field who are doing great things and write a movie or have, you know, play that part in a movie.
That's so true, actually. That's such a good idea.
There you go. 10% cut for me, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what about you? Like, if you weren't, do you think you'd be doing boxing?
Oh my God. I don't know why at one point I really thought I was going to be this.
You should write a movie about boxing.
Oh, I did 5 lessons and I absolutely hated it. It's just too much with the arms.
But you are writing a film at the moment,
I
right?
am
How
writing
is
a film
that
at the
going?
moment.
Like,
Yeah.
what made you go into writing? Is that something you've done since you've been acting, or is it something you've started?
I've been doing it since I was a teenager, but it was the opposite to you. I didn't have any kind of role, other than Kathy Burke. There were no role models for me in terms of the roles that I really, really wanted to play.
Yeah.
And at that time when I was first auditioning, the roles were so on the nose and not similar to my experience of the life that I had growing up. And I knew that there were young girls like me at the time who did have experiences like me.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to write about that, and I really wanted to write stories that I felt were way more real and authentic.
Yeah.
I just had this fire in my belly to start doing that.
Yeah.
Because I was just so fed up.
Yeah.
And also it's kind of cathartic anyway, getting stuff out on the page.
Yeah.
And the movie that I am writing is the one that I started when I was a teenager, and I am still trying to do it. I do have a deadline.
That's
to
great.
get it in.
Something to work towards.
And I'm writing a few different things now. And
so
and I
exciting.
really enjoy it. Do you write?
I have started dabbling in it,
Yeah.
and doing a lot of writing up concepts and starting to figure out how I do script writing. I never thought I was a writer, and I never thought of myself as doing that. And it's really interesting. I feel like the more that we kind of get into the industry, the more that we feel like we should take ownership over the things that we create and do. And I don't know, I feel I have been more inspired to do so and take it on. Especially when there's just not as much out there as we'd like to see ourselves in, and we want to kind of bring these stories to light or talk about our own experiences as well, and be able to shine a light on something new, or send a different message, or talk about something interesting that we find interesting that maybe somebody else will, that hasn't been discussed before in film or in on television or even on stage. And so I've started. There's a few ideas.
Great.
That's
the biggest hurdle, is starting.
Yeah, I've taken lots of joy in exploring it, and I hope that I can make something off of it as you're doing as well.
I feel like some of the biggest changes, or the big changes, will happen when we get to be in the room, the writer's room, or we get to write those stories, or behind the camera directing. I think there's a tiny little trickle effect,
Yeah.
you know, of change happening now, and that's where I'm slowly starting to see the shift.
Yeah, it's been so interesting to see the shift and feel like we get to work at a time that's like creating such like a shift in the industry as a whole and what other people get to see, and the idea that a generation will grow up and not say that they never saw themselves, like they wouldn't even know that that was a thing. That's like kind of cool that we work towards that.
You know, culturally we all have our own unique stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then there are so many experiences that are shared, and I think that's what used to interest me when I'd read parts.
Yeah.
And I said, but I also have that shared experience.
Yeah.
Just because I'm Indian doesn't mean I can't play it.
Absolutely.
Because I do actually resonate with what you've written on the page.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I've started to see the shift. And actually, you know, I've been really fortunate, and I hope you have been too, where they're allowing us to have an open dialogue, asking us questions. How do you feel with this? Or even down to kind of name. I know this sounds crazy, but the name of a character.
Yeah.
You know, is this name appropriate for your character? What does it mean to you? Do you want to change it? What would you feel more comfortable with? Your family, the faith that your family are, would they follow a faith? It might sound small to other people, but to me, they are really important conversations to have.
Yeah.
So you can really take ownership of it, and they feel authentic.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like the change from moving from stereotypes and tropes is happening, when you're allowed to have a bit of a conversation with the creative team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you feel like a part of it. And, you know, as actors, I feel like our job is to be the expert in our characters, to understand them. We are their advocate, you know. And so when we get to have a say over the fact that we don't feel like something sits right in us, how am I supposed to play them to the best of my ability if I don't feel like I can relate or understand their journey, their experience? And to like have a say and be like, actually, no, I don't think they would do that because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make, you know, or like, I don't think they would have grown up in this kind of a household. Or I think you're enforcing this stereotype of their parents because of this way, and I don't think that makes sense. You know, with other characteristics that she shows, for example, I think that's a really important thing to do. And it's been really interesting as well. Like I feel very early in my career, but still to, even within this time, to see myself feel more and more empowered to not just allow myself to answer those questions, but to invite somebody to ask me that question and to be like, hi, can we have a discussion about this? Because if you don't come forward, I will.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really, really important, having the confidence to say that, because then I always find if they say no, then I think, oh, is it the project that I'm supposed to be a part of then?
Yeah, exactly. And also, if it's too far down the line, well, I tried. I did my bit to ensure that I could get it as far as I could.
Yeah. You articulated that way better than I could have done.
I don't know. What has been your most challenging role to date, and why?
Ooh, there's been some challenges on some roles. I would say the most challenging role, for a very specific reason, was when I did Memory in Bulgaria.
I was going to say, like, working with that team must have been...
Well, it was an all-male team and they were great. The challenge was it was COVID during the time. And so I had to stay there for 17 and a half weeks without seeing anyone I knew. Because other actors had come in and they were allowed to go back, and I wasn't allowed to leave, and none of my friends or anyone were allowed to come in. And I don't think at the time I quite appreciated it, but when I look back on it, I was like, God, that was actually really hard. You could tell how hard it was. I think I lost my hair. There was some scenes where I looked bald on like these bits of my head. I was so stressed out at the time. And I was just trying so hard to be good. You're surrounded by these amazing actors like Liam and Guy, and you know, I was this kind of nobody from England. And I was like playing this lead role alongside them, and I just so wanted to prove that I could do it as well.
Yeah.
I think I decompressed about a year later after that.
Yeah. How about you? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I think every job so far has been challenging in its own way. I don't think I'll ever stop feeling imposter syndrome, but just feeling it a little less would be great. That, I think, it can be such an overwhelming feeling. And to be honest, I think very quickly I was like, well, it's not serving me and I don't have time to feel this right now, because when you're on set, you just got to do your job.
And you do belong. You've been chosen. You're there for a reason.
And I think, and it's like reminding yourself is like, no, somebody else trusts me to be in this space. I need to trust myself. And like, you know, and I think that's a consistent challenge that I'm like learning. And even the pressures of different things, you know, I remember doing my first job after I had done Polite Society and feeling like scared that I had to prove myself again and be like, okay, so everyone really praised me on this last performance that I did, but what if they watch this and they're like, oh, so she can only do one role? And I was like,
Wow, okay, yeah.
and it's so bad that we are like, I would never say that to anyone else, but we choose to say those things to ourselves. And it comes from a place of wanting to be the best at what we do and wanting to put your best foot forward all the time.
So that's quite healthy. Then you don't become complacent, you know. But
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the same
You don't
time,
want to become complacent, but at the same time, just
go
just,
go there and take up space. You know,
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
It does change. I mean, I that was a pivotal moment for me, that movie, because
Yeah.
after that, I really felt like I could kind of be like, right, I can take up space and I belong here on this
Yeah,
set, and I felt
yeah.
really confident afterwards. It took me a year to decompress just from how much pressure I put on myself, but at the same time, every single job then I've done after that, I really felt like I belong, and I've
So
earned
cool.
it, and I'm
Yeah.
there, and then that kind of goes, and I can just really just focus.
like that's your space.
Yeah, I don't feel that kind of like, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry for being
Yeah,
here.
like consistently apologizing for you're not
Yeah.
taking up space that was your space in the first place.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this question. What film or TV series would you love to have a part in?
I don't know. God, I wish I had prepared the answers to these questions beforehand. I want to be in everything. I don't know.
Okay, so what's on at the moment that you're enjoying?
The Bear. I'm loving the.
That is on my list.
It's so good.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I would say The Bear. I'd also want to do. I really want to play a villain.
I mean, it's great. I've got to do it, and it's great.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, you get to channel that dark side.
I know.
In a safe space.
Would you do it again? Would you want to play a villain again?
Yeah, I mean, I did a tiny bit of it in Truth Seekers, and it's, you know, it was quite heightened, and it's fun, and there's comedic moments and stuff. But also, like, do they ever see South Asian women as, you know,
Well,
in
this
those
is
kind
the
of
thing.
roles?
Yeah, and I don't want it to be like a typical villainous, like mother-in-law type figure. I want it to be like.
Like those programs on Star Plus.
Yes, you know. I want to be a villain in like a cool way. Like
all the
not that
women are
that's
villains
cool.
on those shows. I
So
don't know
jokes.
why
Yes.
they
I
how they
know,
get away
right,
with
well.
it. Everyone's been slapped left, right, and centre. Every mother-in-law is, you know, some toxic.
High drama.
It's just awful.
Hey, that was the stuff that was entertaining, man. I think that would be great.
Yeah,
I'm
me
gonna
too.
play something cool.
We can be villains together.
Is there anything else you want to do? Like anything right now that you're watching that you're like, yes.
I mean, physically, I just could never. Shogun, obviously, that wouldn't be a bad show. But something along those lines, but where, you know, say Indians could be a, you know, their kind of story. Just that kind of epic,
Yeah.
you know, the women are warriors and just,
Yeah. That would be so cool.
because so many Indian women are warriors.
We all are, I think. I think it's yeah.
And there's so many stories that have not been told about that yet.
Yeah.
You know, the strength.
And then it doesn't come in the forms that people always think it comes in. That strength can be silent, it can be loud, it can be like physical or not. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. I think we're perceived to think strong as a certain thing, and like I don't know. I think we can bend the rules with even that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to say. A lot of women that haven't been able to tell their stories that I think that deserve to have their stories told.
I absolutely agree.
Right.